Good evening. My name is Chris Robbins. I'm a fellow student in CIS 591, the Business Process Workflow Analysis course, and my presentation tonight will discuss process diagramming. The objectives of this presentation are pretty simple. We will understand what process diagrams are and create an example process diagram for creating or ordering a drink at Starbucks. So what is a process diagram? A process diagram captures the overall steps in a process that are being examined. This includes covering the inputs of a process, the outputs of a process, and the time it takes to complete a process. It is worth noting that the size of the process diagram is dictated by the process problem being investigated. If a process is fairly large and requires multiple inputs, outputs, etc., then we're looking at a process diagram that can be fairly large. Whereas if we got a process that's pretty simple, doesn't have a whole lot of steps, then we're looking at a process diagram that is significantly smaller. The goal of the process diagram is to get an overview of the process and how it all works, and you have included a quote from Harmon where he notes that the goal is, quote, to simply get a rough but useful overview of the elements in the process as it is currently understood. So now that we've understood what a process diagram is, let's walk through creating a sample process diagram, in our case for ordering a drink at Starbucks. So step one, once we've walked into the store and actually ordered a drink, our order is considered placed and the order process begins. So once the order has been placed, the order enters a queue. Depending on store size, the number of employees in that day, and even time of day for a given store, this queue may be large or small. The next step in the process that's in our process diagram is that the order reaches the top of the queue or is ready to be processed. There are no other orders that sit in front of it. It is now time for some Starbucks employee to actually process this order. So our next step in the process diagram is that our lucky barista receives this order and actually begins the drink creation process. So at that point in time, the barista assembles our order, and the time it takes to complete this is wholly dependent on what kind of drink we ordered. Again, similar to where we're at in the queue, this may be fairly short or fairly fast. In the case of a black coffee, this is maybe 30 seconds at the most. In the case of a very large frappuccino, this could be a couple minutes. So once the barista has assembled the order, we reach the next step in our process diagram where the barista verifies the order, ensures that there aren't any additional components, say food, that are required, and announces the order as complete to patrons in the store. And once we've overheard that our order is ready, we've received our order and the order is complete. So considerations for this process diagram that we've worked on tonight. There was no issue given to us in this week 2 presentation question. So without a question, the scope of the diagram is limited to the steps that we've looked at. No one's presented us with a problem, so until we have that, we can't look at other components of the order process and include them on our diagram. For example, this includes, let's say, management of store baristas, or how supplies are received by the store. Once we have a better idea of what problem we're attempting to solve in the process, then we can include these other external components into our overall process diagram. So to review, we've understood what process diagrams are, understood how they're used, what the goal is, and we've also created a sample process diagram for ordering a drink at Starbucks. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me on this week's discussion board, and look forward to more discussions this week about this topic and process diagrams. With that said, thanks for your time. Have a good night.